Chakras.
The amethyst has fallen off my meridian.
Hiya, I'm Dom.
And I'm Misha.
And I have a chronic illness.
Me too.
So welcome to Anything Short of a Coffee Enema.
A podcast on which we'll discuss the things we do or have done to function.
And set each other challenges or tasks every time.
We are prepared to go to any lengths to achieve reasonable health.
Short of a macchiato, up your jacksie.
Hello everyone, and
Hello.
How are you? Today,
Dom,
you're continuing with what may very well be the travails of rubbing natural ointments on your skin.
Yes.
Although instead of it being deodorants, it's
Natural sunscreen.
Sunscreen this time.
And I
around.
just, spoiler alert, no boils.
Yeah, I can't see a single one. I was a little bit disappointed when you
I opened the door and his face fell.
Yeah.
How everyone loves to be greeted. Every woman loves it.
Well, it's a little bit sad, but I'm working through as best I possibly can. And what was your challenge for me?
You were going to be doing squats for 30 minutes a day, which to me
That's
sounds
right.
like torture, and you were like, all right, which I find on some level slightly offensive. I'm reviewing a book by Sarah Wilson of I Quit Sugar fame
Oh,
called First We Make the Beast Beautiful.
it's got an octopus on the front cover.
It does. She mentions
most
why at some point, and I can't
excellent
remember what it was. But there is a reason why, apparently.
Fantastic.
We may never find out, unless you read the book. I'm going to chat about a book called First We Make the Beast Beautiful by Sarah Wilson. This book was one of the reasons I decided to read it. It was quite big about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago. It's a book about anxiety, which I don't have, so obviously not targeted for me. But Sarah Wilson has autoimmune disorder or disorders. I think it was Graves that turned into Hashimoto's. But I don't think you can have both at once. Anyway, I don't know. She has Hashimoto's. So I was like, well, maybe there is bits in there that is good for those of us who are disease-ridden. Mm-hmm. And it's fine. Was that a ringing endorsement?
Oh, I tell you what, the echoes are still with me.
She seems to have done some research. I'll give her that. She seems to have done quite a bit of research in anxiety, ways to live with anxiety, deal with anxiety, stop anxiety, treat anxiety, get more anxious, get less anxious, whatever. And if you're somebody who has anxiety and you're thriving, stay away from it, because the book to me was anxiety inducing, and I don't get anxiety. All of the methods that she talks about sound like great methods. They sound like actually really good things. She keeps hammering on about meditation, which, we all, as I can speak for us on the podcast when we say medication. Well, yes, meditation is what I meant to say, although both thumbs up officially.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just, she writes fine. Like, her writing, it's easy to read. She rarely uses big words. It's kind of a biography of her anxiety life, I guess. Except that, holy shitballs, it's erratic. She just can't. There's a narrative structure within the book, but there's no, within one chapter, she'll bounce around from 3 different decades in her life and just trying to make a point, but it's really erratic to read, which, given that she has anxiety, probably not surprising, but you would have thought that an editor would have, I don't know, edited at some point. And I found that it actually comes across like she's really abrasive, because I think of that erratic way the book is. Yeah, it comes across abrasive.
That's really unfortunate.
Which I don't think she means to be, and I'm sure in real life she's not. Although, when I was reading it, I did chat to a friend of mine who I used to live with, and she did the I Quit Sugar for a little while. And she said that during that time, she went and saw Sarah Wilson speak, and that she came across really almost aggressive. And I reckon it probably wasn't aggression. I reckon it was that kind of, I'm stressed, so I'm erratic, and therefore it comes out being abrasive, I think, yeah.
So what's your sense of her kind of, does she have a core set of recommendations? Apart from mindfulness, what kind of stuff is she?
So the main reason that she says that anxiety is a thing is that some people are always searching for, like reaching outwards and searching for you know, kind of the meaning of life, I guess, in that they're always searching for something, or they can't. I'm trying to find a good way, or maybe I can find the way that she describes it. Searching for the something else, she keeps calling it, I guess.
Yeah.
Rather than being able to sit or find any of that within yourself, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe if you have something like addiction, that would be interesting, because she's talking about that you're not enough and your brain can't stop and that this is going on, and then you're constantly trying to push that away or change it, or, you know, as somebody who has never, I'm happy to sit in my own company and spend time deep within. I know who I am internally. I'm not constantly searching for something else.
You're the most introverted extrovert I've ever met.
Whilst I'm not religious, I have a spirituality and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to be constantly reaching outwards to fulfill inside, except for small addictions like makeup and skincare.
Horse rugs.
I quite like a nice leather boot as well. Not the point. Maybe some of that comes from writing, or because if you can't control your emotions and don't understand why you have the emotions, then you can't effectively really work with what is essentially a ton of
highly anxious
prey animal.
Yeah.
You know, the way a prey animal's mind works is quite different to a predator's mind.
Yeah.
And animals are great in that they are a real reflector of what is going on inside. So if what's going on inside is constantly churning over, the animal reflects that at you. And I get people at work who can't walk their dog on lead, and I go, well, can I have a feel of the problem? I grab the dog's lead and it's fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, how did you do that? What did you use? And I'm like, no, I'm just walking the dog.
Calmly
I haven't
and
actually
confidently
done
holding
anything.
a lead, yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes you do need to put things on and tell them what's what, but a lot of the time it doesn't, I don't know. So maybe I just have that because I've been around animals my entire life.
Yeah.
I think that's just an intrinsic part of who I am, though, to be honest. I think some of that comes with self-confidence. She does come across a little bit arrogant, which I can't judge. I think there's a lot you can get out of it, but it's clearly not written for me, and I didn't get anything. And she clearly does not listen to her body. Like, she even says that at points when she goes, well, you know, her autoimmune illness was completely out of control, and instead of listening to it or even seeing a doctor to try and understand how to control it or whatever, she just kept running through it and running through it and running through it until she fell over, sort of thing. And it's, if you can't stop and listen to your body, well, of course you're not going to be able to, you know, stop the driver inside.
There's a guy called Bessel van der Kolk who's done an awful lot of work on specifically trauma. That is what he's really, really interested in. But he spends a lot of time talking about how people who don't have a connection to their physical selves are far, far, far more vulnerable to post-traumatic stress disorder, to anxiety disorders, to mood disorders. And he's really interesting on the subject of how he's fascinated by yoga, by massage, by some really out there, weirdo kind of massage techniques. The kind of scraping and cupping that we've talked about on this podcast before, because his feeling is, in a really, really crude way, it drags people into their physical selves. Like
they cannot ignore it any longer.
Here's a really intense sensation, which has some implications that don't seem to last very long, as you could kind of predict. Like once the experience goes away, it's hard for people to.
But if you know what it felt like for a second to be dragged back into yourself, well, maybe you can try and replicate that at home, that kind of feeling of dragging yourself back. I get that. She links anxiety with her autoimmune illness in moments, and then at other moments she doesn't. So I don't think she's done enough on understanding her body, not just her mind. She spends a lot of time understanding her mind, and that's important too.
Yeah.
But I think if she understood her body, it would help something with the mind a little bit more.
Your
body. Yeah, right? You know, and she talks about the times that she can't sleep, because she says that she's been diagnosed with depression, bipolar, all these other things as well, but she thinks that they're all actually anxiety. And they might be. I don't know. I don't have a body or her mind. I'm not really sure. And certainly a lot of the behaviour she describes is manic in the extreme, but that could also just be refusing to be out, well, not refusing, not knowing how to stop your body in order to slow the mind. And I think you can't necessarily slow the mind whilst the body's running at full go.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there are, particularly in anxiety, there are feedback loops involved there. People who
She has
have
OCD as well, and that is, the OCD only seems to come in when the anxiety and the body is all out of control as well. Yeah.
A huge proportion of people who are diagnosed successfully with panic attacks are diagnosed as a result of calling an ambulance to their house, for example. Like they're convinced that
they're
sometimes
having
not
heart
even
attack or whatever.
Heart attack is quite common, but also just people are suddenly convinced they're dying. They're experiencing a set of physical sensations that they can't even pin down to something like a cardiac incident. They just think that's it. Everything appears to be shutting down from what I'm feeling. Yeah, that's interesting and very, very sad, I think, from her point of view.
And she does mention that when she wrote and was doing I Quit Sugar, she was kind of doing it as an experiment to control her body, but she was doing it having run away to a shed in Byron Bay or whatever. And I don't think then you're actually trying to address what's going on. You're just looking at ways to kind of mask it to a certain extent. I'm not saying that anyone who does I Quit Sugar is wrong, and I'm not saying that I Quit Sugar didn't help her. I'm not her, I don't know. I just feel like that she's writing this book to explore why anxiety and all these things, and she talks to a lot of different people. There's a lot of great ideas in there. There's little techniques as well as big techniques. One of the little ones she discusses is making your bed every day, because that little bit of routine helps. But I think that's a physical thing. I don't think that's necessarily a mental thing. I think that's structuring your life in a physical way to understand your body a bit better. I think that's kind of where that comes from. She's so concerned with the something else in life, kind of what is the meaning of life, that I feel like she's not answering the questions that she's asking, and I don't know if she's actually living life as much as she would want to live it, because she's so busy thinking about what the hell is life. Maybe that I'm just saying that because I don't have those sort of thoughts.
No, it sounds your description of it sounds like a paradigmatic version of the person who understands that seeking constantly isn't the answer, but is trapped in.
But is constantly seeking. If
Poor
you
coffin.
are prone to anxiety, or if you do have anxiety, or if you do have depression, or if you've just been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and that can cause anxiety in some people because they don't know how to control it, they don't know what's what, they don't know what advice they should take, whatever, then I think you can get stuff out of reading it. I just think in the back of your head, there's some great people she talks to, there's some great quotes in there, there's some great sound bites, there's some fun little techniques and stuff. I don't think you need to take everything she says on, because it's not cogent enough. I don't think it's going to help if you take everything she says on. So it's definitely got a place. It's just, I think she probably should have let her psych read this first. I think that would have really helped. Maybe her psych did, and maybe her psych was like, okay, I've been telling you this for 40 years. Can you please write it, put it out there, and maybe you'll absorb it? Because some people are like that. Some people need to have, somebody can tell them something again and again and again, and then eventually they go, oh my God, did you know this? Yes, we've told you that 40 times, sort of thing. People have to come to their own conclusions sometimes. That's fine. She's, I think, one of those people. It's an interesting book. It's an easy enough read. The pages are quite small. Like, there's only probably 2 or 3 paragraphs a page. So it's not difficult. Not super interesting in a lot of ways, and that she doesn't have that. I really love narrative structure. And she doesn't really, because it's so erratic, doesn't have that narrative structure that pulls me in. That even if I don't agree with the content, it'll pull me in anyway. Yeah. So worth thinking about. I just rented it at the library. Easy enough to do.
So you challenged me, Dom, to do 30 minutes per day, or to accumulate 30 minutes per day in a deep squatting position.
Yes.
Which is what I did. So I guess...
I imagine it'd be excellent for your bowels. Because that's how we're designed to poop.
We will. That's certainly something that people mention quite a bit. I don't think
we've talked enough about your bowels yet, Misha. So I'm looking forward to this.
Mine are disappointing, though, I think.
So many
deeply,
things
they're going to be deeply and profoundly disappointing to you. So there are a lot of people who advocate some version of this accumulate 30 minutes in a squatting position per day. The person who I kind of adopted as my sort of 30 minutes a day guru is called Ido Portal.
Oh, good name.
It is a great name.
Is he Portuguese? That sounds like a
I think he's Italian.
Oh, okay.
I think he's Italian. What I will say, if you don't mind man buns and sort of designer small beards, he's easy on the eye.
Well, I am from Melbourne and I am a very straight heterosexual woman, so that's pretty much all my choices in Melbourne anyway. So yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm down.
But you also get like the perpetual Mediterranean tan and the build of a male gymnast who can just do astonishing things.
Yeah, okay.
With
I'm putting that in the bank for later on, guys.
It's YouTube away. I don't care what gender you are, where you are on the binary spectrum, and straight, gay, or whatever else. He's well worth a look. Anyway, this is one very tiny part of his overall. He calls himself a movement coach, and he has a movement philosophy.
Oh, fuck off.
He really does.
This sounds like a liturgical dance. You know when you got roped into the liturgical dance as a child in Catholic school?
I am pleased to say that I have never in my life been involved in a liturgical dance, and it's...
I went to Catholic school, so there was liturgical dance. The joy. Anyway, it always starts off with, a movement type coach person who's usually wearing a long red robe of some description.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue on. We're reliving my childhood trauma. We don't really need to do that.
So the basics of this is you don't have to do the 30 minutes all in one go, thankfully. What? The aim is to accumulate over the course of a day 30 minutes in if you possibly can, heels on the floor.
If I was using a squat toilet, then I would be well past the 30 minutes if I'm accumulating. And that's not even including bowel movements, to be honest.
Maybe that's the way that you should include this in your life then.
I already have a bit of a problem with the cat really loving the toilet, and I think that's just going to get worse because he does actually try and get onto the toilet or even in the toilet when I'm on the toilet. It's problematic.
Wow. That does sound problematic.
He just really likes me.
In any event, the aim is, as I said, you accumulate 30 minutes per day. The idea is that it's a flat-footed squat, so you have as many different bits of your foot on the floor as you possibly can, and you get down basically as low as possible. You don't have to have a straight back or anything like that. He advocates being as relaxed as possible while you're actually doing it. And there are a number of different ways of thinking about why you would do it. So one of them is actually bowel health. One of them is definitely that by putting yourself in that position, you're going to be squeezing certain things that aren't normally squeezed, and it's good for the movement of waste, as it were, on its journey.
It's good for motility, is what we say in the biz.
Yeah, that's right. Another one is simply getting into an area or a range of motion that in the modern world we're just not normally. The thought is that it may well have been the kind of primary human resting position other than lying down.
That'd be hell on your knees long term if that's your primary resting position.
Well, I wonder, maybe then again it's a kind of move it or lose it sort of thing. Like if you're in that position on a fairly regular basis.
You're probably not the same weight I am all the time. Yeah.
And depending on how far you take that...
Plus, that's also just including you're meant to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. Will get your heart rate moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would help.
What else can be said? So there's a flexibility aspect to it. There's also hip and joint health and also spinal health things that some people say about it. That got into an area where I thought people were starting to push it and be a little bit more evangelical than they were in other areas. And
which makes you run opposite direction.
Yeah. They made some pretty big claims. So obviously, big flag... correlation doesn't equal causation, but in cultures where that's still a very common resting movement, a lot of Southeast Asian cultures, for example, the rates of orthopaedic surgery and any kind of orthopaedic intervention are incredibly low compared with the Western world. And that goes for hip replacements, knee replacements, any kind of spinal intervention whatsoever. There is a thought that maybe that's a factor.
I would say there's many, many factors and you can't put it down to one.
Of course. Hence correlation, causation. Again. But it's...
I had a face on, by the way, guys. I had a face.
Definitely.
I was like,
One thing that I sort of have definitely noticed about it is for many, many, many years, I had jobs that involved lots and lots of standing up. So I was teaching and I was standing up for pretty much all of the day while I was teaching. As a support worker, I was standing up, moving around, taking people places all the time. So lots and lots of standing up. Now all of a sudden I'm in a kind of admin role at the moment and I'm sitting down for a huge part of the day.
Yep.
And I had noticed lots of, like, until I sorted out my chair, lower back things were starting to get a little bit twitchy. Hips were getting a little bit twitchy and quite tight, especially hip flexors was something that was getting pretty nasty. The idea with this is that you're getting into a position which is very, very different from sitting in a chair, and it's increasing flexibility and increasing ranges of motion that I just wasn't getting into.
I wonder if just replacing a chair with a smaller exercise ball would do the same thing, though.
Maybe. I mean, it might.
Probably less on the circulation side, though.
Yeah, I've spent a bit of time on like sitting on an exercise ball. Yeah. One thing I will say about it, I definitely noticed when you start doing it for the first time, your spine is definitely straighter. You're engaging your core a lot more. You're engaging sort of spinal erectors. You can feel other muscles working. But I found, for me anyway, eventually you would just get lazy and sort of slump again. Yeah. So it didn't have a kind of long-term effect there, and I don't think it changes angles with your hips and knees
and your
very
ankles
much.
And stuff. Yep.
You're a little bit lower probably, but definitely not as low as a squat. So the way that I approached it was simply set a timer on the phone, and also I found it was pretty important to find something else to kind of do at the same time, just because I don't have super duper amounts of time, but also because I found it much, much easier to kind of tune out of, especially early on, the kind of discomfort involved in it when you're sitting in that position for quite a while. So what I would basically do is sort of put laptop on the side of the bed, do it close to the bed so that if your balance got a little bit off, you can grab hold of something and support yourself for a little while. You can also like move yourself into other kind of stretchy positions if you've got something to hold on to for a bit of leverage as well. And you've got something, especially if you were trying to do it for fairly substantial chunks of time, like I was getting up to sort of 7-8 minutes towards the end of the fortnight that I've been doing it so far, where you can kind of distract yourself because it does get quite uncomfortable at that kind of point.
Locking yourself in any position kind of gets uncomfortable. If it's a foreign position where your muscles have to be tense, then it gets uncomfortable. Yeah,
absolutely. So this was, for me, this has been, besides doing cold showers, this has had the biggest quick impact.
Yeah, cool.
Just in terms of like, first time I did it, my hips made the sort of sound that like a roast chicken makes when it's being pulled to pieces by a crowd of people. It was really gruesome.
This is the kind of sound that I make every time I see my physio. As I'm walking in the door, sometimes I just get cracking. It's just like, oh God, she's going to touch me again. Crack everywhere.
But gruesome sort of slightly
proper pops.
Wet, unfortunate sounds. Yeah.
Which is so satisfying. There's nothing better than that sound coming out of your joints.
Well, there's definitely that. A couple of really useful things that I read as well. I didn't have this problem myself, but people recommend if this is something that's totally foreign to you, think about things you might be able to put on the floor to elevate your heels a little bit at first, just to help with ankle mobility and knee mobility, which I can really imagine would make a difference. I know that, for example, people who do lots of squatting with weight will sometimes wear weightlifting shoes, which have really quite elevated heels. They're almost, I think, 2 centimetres of elevation. We're not talking stilettos or anything here, but it's higher than an ordinary like sneaker, for example, which helps with ankle mobility and knee mobility. Again, as I said, I didn't really do that. I was just sort of bare feet on carpet.
I was going to ask, you were barefoot. Did you find that you didn't miss arch support in those moments?
I have like beyond pancake flat feet. In any case,
it's right. Arch support is not a concern for you.
It's not a thing for me. My arches don't need support because they're supported by whatever I'm standing on.
Because they do not exist.
Yeah, regardless of the shoes, floor, surface, whatever else it might be.
Birkenstocks are just like peas under your arch.
That's right, absolutely. Yep. I literally crush them underfoot. So, but anyway, as I said, if you do find it difficult to get into that position, and this really is like, you're not talking about a squat where your kind of thighs are parallel to the ground. This is
No, you're talking about you're trying to almost put your butt on the ground, but just not quite. Yeah.
Yes, ass to grass, I believe, is the terminology.
I like a bit of rhyming. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
In the horse world, that's what you're trying to avoid.
correct. Very much. Very much. So as I said, it's just about, slowly accumulating the amount of time that you can spend in it, and the aim is that ultimately you'll have kind of 30 minutes over the course of a day. When I started, I was doing well if I got a minute 30 to 2 minutes at a stretch before it became uncomfortable.
So what part of you hurt first?
So left hip flexor for the most part, just one particular little muscle, which is sort of at the front of your hip bone.
Do you think that was because when you were sitting, you were slumping to a certain angle or degree when you were at work?
I think it might be that. I think it's probably also tied to sort of flat feet as well. Like all those mechanics have an implication for all other joints.
So maybe you should work on them arches,
Who knows? That could be a really particularly hideous challenge at some point down the line. So yeah, about a minute 30 to 2 minutes at a time. Initially, I was surprised by how quickly, like day after day, it got easier and easier, like more rapidly than I was sort of expecting it to. And as I said, probably 7-8 minutes towards the end. And even then it was more sort of, my feet are feeling a little bit kind of numb and overwrought here, and I need to get up and kind of move around. I definitely noticed sitting down on a chair at work for the sort of long periods of time that I do was more comfortable afterwards. I felt less, again, like I think I've mentioned on this podcast before, like it's been since I've had more of a sitting down job, it takes me longer at night doing the kind of stretching and foam rolling and stuff that I do to feel like my back is okay and better. Yeah. This was actually, I think, had a real impact on that, I would think.
Was it tiring? Like, you know how sometimes if you're doing weights or whatever, they're not like tiring, and then you up the reps by like 3 or something, and you're like, oh yeah, I hit tired point. Did you get to tired point?
Maybe.
That's a totally made up term, obviously.
Yeah, I see what you mean though. I don't think in the way that you get fatigued overall when you do some kind of exercise. It wasn't like that. Okay. It felt very much like localized areas where muscles and tissues are doing things that they weren't used to. Yeah. So I found that, again, hip flexor on my left in particular was something that really felt overwrought at certain points. I didn't notice anything significant like elevated heart rate or anything like that. The amount of movement that you're actually doing once you get your balance okay is actually not...
None, pretty much.
Yeah. It's very, very little. Yeah. What I did found eventually, especially as I was doing it for longer and longer, I started kind of playing around with ranges of motion, moving side to side a little bit, finding little bits of it tight and stretching a little bit more. I found it much easier to balance, putting your sort of elbows on the inside of your knees and sort of pushing outward to get a little bit more of a stretch. That was really, really nice. It feels in a certain way like you're just doing a really long stretch.
There are some yoga poses or asanas that are very similarly based in terms of where the center of gravity is, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So really, really nice from that point of view, and again, it just became part of my sort of nighttime getting ready for bed, winding down.
Did you do it whilst? So you're against the bed or whatever. Did you put on like an easy guided meditation or something? Not quite a body scan, and not like Sam Harris, which is a bit more challenging. But did you put on something like that? No,
I was doing homework, or I was writing emails, or I was doing something like that, or sometimes or just faffing around online.
I wonder if it would be easier or harder if you were trying to quieten the mind.
I think in a way it would work as a good distraction. Again, if you got your balance right, if you really wanted to shoot for some longer period of time than you'd done before, I would imagine that could actually quite work. Yeah. It just didn't occur to me at any point to try that. My loss, no doubt. Another thing that I really liked about this one is, especially if you're following kind of Ido Portal stuff, this for him is like the most babyish piece of simplicity, and this is something that any human being should be doing for just general flexibility, health as a kind of baseline. Yeah. His kind of movement philosophy is centered a lot around gymnastics movements. Like he's really, when you watch the kind of stuff that he can do, he's just astonishingly coordinated and fluid in his movements. It's just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, okay.
And
But that's probably a lifetime of doing that too.
Oh, 100%. And he's got a background in sort of capoeira and gymnastics and
Yeah.
all sorts of other like really complex, tricky movement patterns. But he has this YouTube video which has generated like crazy amounts of views for what it is, which is just called Squat Routine 2.0 or something like that. But it's a whole series of really for me anyway, incredibly challenging stretches and movements.
Yeah.
Probably geared much more towards athletes, but it's sort
You're
of...
like, I see the challenge, I will take the challenge.
Well, I mean, I see the challenge, realise immediately that I'm not up for it. But
Run away into my corner.
That's right, but broadly speaking. But it just gives you the sense that if you wanted to take this further, there's no functional limit to where you could go. Because I mean, this guy, as I said, like his
and it's all going to, even
incredible.
Even if you're not looking at it for gastrointestinal health or joint health or anything else, it's still good in terms of keeping flexible. Is better for the older you get, the more you need to maintain flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that disappears quick. For most people.
Yeah. And if you're in the modern world, it is astonishing how little you can get into that position. You just don't need to.
Yeah, and we're very sedentary. You know, if you're a jockey, you're probably in that position a lot. It's just at a slightly more angled forward thing. But otherwise, no.
Yeah, that's right. And I found I've been doing a fair bit of driving for work a couple of times a week at the moment, and that was something else. Like it was that driving to work, doing a lot of sitting down at work, doing a lot of homework where I'm sitting down if I'm not at my standing desk. All those kind of things are really, really, really adding up, and this really seemed to be an excellent kind of antidote for it. And so what...
I'm disappointed though. I was kind of hoping to hear that you had done it. You were doing it for an entire half-hour session, and that your hamstrings ended up literally on fire. Not just like they feel like they're on fire. Like actually, that's how much on fire they were. Actual little flames sparked out.
I don't think I would have made it up the stairs to your place today, Dom, had that happened.
Well,
and what I would definitely say, I think it might be very, very easy for someone to look at this, try it that way, and become incredibly discouraged really early on.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you how many different contexts in which I've read the kind of advice that when you're starting off something like this, you do it in incredibly small chunks so as not to...
Just frequently.
Yeah. Not to do anything crazy. So in the end, it really was. I was probably accumulating around about 10 minutes in the morning, virtually first thing after I got up, and the bulk of it in the evening just before I went to bed.
Yep. And did it help you poop?
So I've got, as I said, I'm going to be such a massive disappointment to you because I'm sort of, I just
the constant
don't
eating of potatoes, I think, that makes your bowels uninteresting.
That's right. That's quite possible. But I'm not, honestly, like I'm knock on wood and everything else, I'm blessed, as it were, to be sort of regular and untroubled in that area.
It's like Winter panic in his eye when he said knock on wood. Yep.
So I didn't notice any particular change there of any note.
Are you a regular pooper? Like, do you poop at the same time every day?
Broadly speaking, I don't know about the same time on the dot, within the same hour, say every day. Yeah.
We'll take that. Did it say bring that forward after your morning squat?
Not that I noticed. It's much more tied to my morning coffee, I would say.
Okay, all right. Having the coffee while squatting definitely probably would have brought it forward.
I didn't do that. I hadn't got to the kettle at that stage. It literally was like turn alarm off, get out of bed, make bed,
then go downstairs. Yeah.
10 minutes more or less accumulated, and then on with the morning. I'm definitely going to keep on doing it.
Yeah, cool.
Don't know whether it's going to be a keep on doing it daily sort of thing.
Yeah.
But definitely part of, and most certainly it was an excellent reminder to me of just again how quickly it seemed to address tightness and creakiness and crackiness and nastiness to do with sitting down where everything's at a kind of 90-degree angle in your body. At
a basic level, you're just using joints that you don't really flex enough during the day because your life is no longer structured that you can flex them often. Yeah, absolutely. And because I've been absolutely hopeless with kind of exercise. Like when I do exercise, I tend to have a lot of squatting that's involved in that.
So that was
But
something.
it's like against the wall squats that you're holding?
No, squatting as in like barbell on back,
Okay.
squat down to below parallel and then up again.
Yeah,
so
okay.
you're in a similar kind of range of motion, not going nearly as low and not for nearly so long a period of time, that's for sure. But at least that range of motion was kind of being opened up when I do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But this definitely, at least at present, because I'm not sufficiently motivated and organised to get that kind of time to do exercise in my life at the moment. I was
The
going to try
statistics
and
are still hurting, guys. He's no longer doing them, but the pain, it's etched all over
know,
him.
it's still
He cannot forget the pain.
I was going to try and pull the whole, oh God, I'm just so busy, parenthood and study and work.
You
It's
chose
just,
to breed.
I know. I know.
So basically, you think most people, barring, most normal, healthy people should probably try and incorporate this.
I think anyone
Easy
short
enough
of
to
having,
do, even if it's only like 4 or 5 times a week. So like every weekday that you're at work, try and do half an hour over the day before you go to bed.
For
sort of
sure.
thing.
And I would say again, like try it if you find it really, really uncomfortable, first time you're doing it with all parts of feet on the floor, just put a couple of books under your heels and see if that works. You should definitely find that it's easier to get lower from that way. And in an ideal world, you would gradually reduce the amount of elevation under your heels. Because again, it's like...
You want the ankle flexibility as well.
Yeah, that's right. Ankles and knees and all sorts of stuff are all implicated in that. But again, in terms of almost immediate sensation of relief straight after I started doing it from certain kind of nasty symptoms, I was really, really impressed by. And it's free, damn it.
We love free.
So Dom, the sun is out, summer is here.
It is. Well, actually, technically we're in spring, but
Well,
the summer is almost here. And, a couple of nights ago it was like 20 degrees overnight, so we're just going to go with summer is here.
That'll suit me. That's good.
Yep.
There's almost probably something I can do with the editing that'll even make all of that work.
I apologise, not really. Anyway, so the point is you challenged me to look at natural sunscreens.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So the reason why natural sunscreens are the big shindig thing that people like at the moment is because there's a woman named, now let me get this right, Elizabeth Plurdy. I think we're going to go with
Sure,
Plurdy.
sounds good to me.
And so she wrote this big book that came out 5, 7, some amount of years ago, and it had stuff in there about how chemical sunscreens, like the normal sunscreens, that they're, causing degradation of reefs, coral reefs and stuff, people having sunscreen on going out and then it leaching into the water and killing stuff. But she also is, and apparently she had a lot of sources, so she cited like 500 sources or whatever. I didn't read it. I don't know if she cited them well and used logic.
500 is 500.
It's a large amount. We're going to give it that.
It's a good-looking bibliography, and that's all I really care about.
Yep. That's it. That is the important thing. And I do appreciate a good footnote as well. But she also was claiming that some of the main chemical sunscreen ingredients, like the main active ingredients, can cause cancer over time. So people don't like cancer. Yeah, I know. Different kinds of cancer, not just skin cancer. You can get all the cancers, but there can be hormone disruptors and stuff like that as well. So that book became popular. In case anyone wants to know, I think it's called Sunscreens Biohazard, and then there might be some more words, but that's the main.
And can you remember what are the particular chemicals that is she concerned
There's
about?
a couple starting with oxy, but I think it's oxybenzone that was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And that's often apparently the one that when people have a skin reaction to chemical sunscreen, that's the one that usually sets them off, that they get a bit of a skin reaction to. So a lot of, as it turns out, normal everyday chemical sunscreens actually have a chemical sunscreen, but they'll also have a physical sunscreen, which is a natural sunscreen, like zinc oxide is generally in there. And that's usually what gives you a bit of a white cast when you put on sunscreen, it's the zinc oxide. So I was looking at ones that just had minerals, which are just physical. So they usually use a combination of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And basically the difference really is, I'll get into SPF in a minute, and UVA rays and all that sort of stuff, and UVB, But the difference is a chemical sunscreen, when you put it on, absorbs into your skin and then either takes in the UV and UVB rays and like disperses them or changes them up so they don't affect you negatively. Whereas but it has to be in your skin sort of thing. And a physical or a natural one, it sits on top of your skin, so the rays never actually penetrate. So I would argue that that's probably always going to be better in terms of, you know, not dying of skin cancer somewhere along the lines, right?
Yeah. I mean, just superficially, like if what you're trying to do is avoid exposure to ultraviolet radiation, then reflecting it off you rather than having it absorbed and whatever.
Which, you know, is amazing science and quite cool, but seems to defeat the purpose a little bit. Yeah. So there's two types of ultraviolet rays. There's UVA and UVB. Now, UVA is the one that tends to penetrate quite deep. It's the one that usually causes melanomas, basal cell carcinomas, squamous cell carcinomas, the skin cancers. And then there's UVB, which is the one that is very shallow, won't penetrate too many layers of the epidermis, but is the one that causes burning. So when people say, I don't burn, that doesn't mean they're not going to get skin cancer. It just means that their melanin, I look at my arm and say the word melanin, it doesn't apply to my arm.
No.
But, you know, their melanin level means that
you
they
say
don't.
it wistfully.
Oh, how I wish I had you. Yeah.
Trying to wish it into existence.
They don't absorb as much of the UVB or whatever naturally from
Yeah.
melanin or whatever. So, natural sunscreens are rated a bit differently. You're never going to find, you'll find a chemical sunscreen. Mostly they're 30 to 50 like SPF rated.
Yep.
They tend not to be anything below that, to be honest. In Australia, the way that we rate SPF is different to most of the rest of the world. We're a lot harder on it. It has to go through more checks and balances in order to be rated at all.
Yeah.
And then
So that we will still have people rather than just
little
crisps walking around. Yeah.
Well, not really walking, just drifting in the great ocean of desert that is Australia. Yes. So, because we live under a hole in the ozone layer, people.
Best bloody hole in the ozone layer in the fucking world, mate.
Yes, we'll stay with that. But if people say that they wear a face moisturiser with SPF 15, if it's a moisturiser with SPF, it doesn't actually have to go through the same rating system in Australia. So it may not actually, by the way, be giving you as much of an SPF as you think it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be rated. Whereas anything that says it's a sunscreen or is rated above purports whatever itself to be over SPF 15, they have to go through quite a lot of hoops and red tape in order to get that.
Yeah, right.
Physical sunscreens, you feel them. They are a bit heavier.
Yeah.
Like a normal sunscreen, it can be a little bit greasy or you can get a little bit of a white cast. But, you put it on and you forget about it. You do feel the higher the SPF, the more you feel it. So I had one that was a moisturiser with SPF 15. It was mineral, natural. And I didn't really feel that. I've got dry skin and it was a little bit harder to push over my face compared to a normal SPF. But then I had another one that I bought from Mecca that was a mineral one and it was SPF 30 and it was, you felt it on your face a little bit definitely. And I haven't seen one that was SPF 50 at all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Huh. How do they compare cost-wise?
They tend to be more expensive because in order to make them comfortable, they have to do a lot more work on the actual formulation. Yeah.
Massively, massively more expensive? Because my sense of a sunscreen is you can buy a tube of it from the supermarket for anywhere from sort of $8 to $12 is kind of the range that I'm thinking. Yep.
So there's one brand that I didn't try so I can't attest to its comfort, that you can get at Priceline that's like a 50 ml, it's SPF 30, it's not a facial moisturiser, it's a zinc, but it has titanium oxide, so it's mostly zinc, I can't remember what it's called. It's in white and yellow packaging. And that was, $5 to $10 or whatever for a 50 ml. The moisturiser one that I bought with SPF 15 was $15 or around there.
Yeah.
It was the Asano brand. And then the Mecca one may have been a bit more expensive, but it is Mecca. You'd expect anything from Mecca to be a bit more expensive. That was more like $40 for 75 ml. But that was the SPF 30 as well.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard to find ones that are SPF 30 that are natural or mineral that aren't a little bit more expensive because they spend a lot more time on the formulation and there's just less of them around.
So Mecca aside, that sounds like maybe a quarter to half as much again,
Yeah.
cost-wise.
But my skin likes it. My skin likes it. I did bother continuing to use normal sunscreen on my arms because I'm covering a much greater amount of space, and I just figured that was not cost effective.
Yeah.
And I don't put sunscreen on my arms every day anyway because if I'm wearing a long sleeve top, I don't see the point. But I put sunscreen on my face and my neck every day regardless.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was fine. It worked out fine. I did make sure to wash my face every night, like cleanse my face every night, because it wasn't something that, because it's sitting on your skin, I wanted to make sure it wasn't blocking pores and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair call.
So more effort that way, I guess.
What would you guess for someone who's like, say, playing sport or something? Would you be in for more applications? Probably.
If you're sweating it off a lot, then yeah, maybe you can probably. It may not run completely off your face. You might be able to kind of tap it back in a little bit or something. But in any case, if you're sweating a lot, you still have to reapply chemical sunscreen anyway.
Yeah.
Because as I said, a lot of them actually have zinc in there as one of the active ingredients, which you would technically sweat off anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How quickly into reading about it and looking into the reasons why people do this sort of thing, how quickly did you get into the kind of, oh, this gets into your thyroid brigade, and you know the kind of claims that I'm talking about? Which is exposure to any of these kind of chemicals must...
Fairly quickly, you jump into that fairly quickly. There is some research done on some of the ingredients that thus far is not amazing. I look at that research and I go, oh yeah, that doesn't sound like it's amazing for you. But then sample sizes are really small, there's not that much done on it. Unsurprisingly, it's not super well funded as an area of research. So, but in any case, I'm quite pale, I've got kind of reddish colouring. And I come from a family where there's melanoma and basal cell and squamous cell carcinomas on both sides in the immediate family. So I go, well, if theoretically it's better in terms of you get less rays coming through, that for me as peace of mind is pretty great.
For sure.
And the Mecca sunscreen does sit really nicely under makeup. For women, that's important.
Yeah. I wonder for the kind of person who's, because I totally take your point about the way we are sort of assuming as reflective properties over dispersing ones. I just sort of wonder what's the calculus that someone must be doing if they're thinking, I don't want to put this toxic thing on my skin. Like, it seems a weird calculus for me to run when, especially in Australia, the threat of really serious damage leading to cancer is so high.
It's super high. And especially, like, our rates of melanoma are the biggest in the world. And in Australia, you get melanoma, in other places in the world, that's often just, it stays as a melanoma. It gets picked up quick enough. It's not got enough oomph behind it, whereas in Australia it tends to metastasize and move very quickly.
Yeah, so
which is what kills you.
I'm just kind of thinking, like, if it was just there's a toxin in this that I'm a bit funny about, it's like, well... Whenever I've travelled, the rest of the world takes a really laissez-faire attitude towards SPF. Women of a certain age should tend to take a more serious view of it because sun damage increases wrinkles and sagginess and kills collagen and stuff like that. Yeah.
But
I've been to Noosa. I have seen
cardboard, brown cardboard.
Yeah.
But like, when I was in America for a while, I'd put on sunscreen. It was a habit. It was a habit I developed as a child because I had to, and I put on sunscreen every day. And I get people going, "Why are you putting?" And there was one time when I was teaching, and I'd take the kids out on horseback to a lake, and we'd all ride bareback in the water and all that great stuff. And then before we went back, I'd be like, here's our tube of SPF 50, let's put on some sunscreen because it's an hour ride home or whatever. And they'd be like, what? And I'm like, you're going to die of skin cancer. Put on the damn SPF, kids. And they were boys. They just it was walking uphill, carrying all the sorts of burdens in the world. Just never going to happen. Different attitude. Over there, I think if you can find a reason not to put it on, because it's not a habit, it's easier for them to do, and that's more justifiable for them. Whereas I think in Australia you can't really take that risk, to be honest. And it is the SPF 15 natural sunscreen was comfortable enough. It wasn't uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The SPF 30 took a little bit longer to blend in. If you cut it with a little bit of moisturiser, it's easier to spread out. But a lot of people don't seem to, like, a lot of people use like one pump and use that for your face. That does not give you the SPF rating on the bottle, just in case people didn't know that. You need like 3 to 4 pumps to get the SPF level that's on your bottle for your face to neck area.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, there you go. You're dying. You didn't even know it. The cat just stacked it.
Oh, Mel. Oh, he looks so confused and faintly wounded.
Yeah, he is wounded because the bag attacked him by, him falling on it.
Oh,
I know.
thing.
Adorable. So it's something that I'll keep on. Also, I've got 2 almost full tubs of SPF, so I ain't throwing them out.
Now having all Camberwell's largest supply. You're stuck with it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I guess another thing, as a parent, I have to ask, again, I can so easily imagine that a huge amount of the people who are interested in this in the online world would be, I'm not putting aluminium products on my little angel.
Yeah, I suppose they are. I tend to not take any notice of what parents say, to be honest, so that's not something
Very
that I was
sensible.
particularly aware of.
Extremely
But
sensible.
it's not every single chemical sunscreen doesn't seem to have that connotation as immune disruptors or whatever. And maybe you need to do your own research as to which active ingredient is in the sunscreen you've got as to whether or not you like it.
Yeah.
Just keep that research broad.
Yeah, that's totally fair call.
Although, actually, there's a country in the Pacific, you're going to be able to tell me because I assume that you've got more brain power than me.
Pacific is a fairly large area.
There's a little country that is actually banning chemical SPF or most sunscreens as of like 2020.
I'm going with the Pacific, somewhere in the Pacific.
I'd already told you that, so your going with was not helpful at all, Misha, at all. Might decide with a P, the country. That's not helpful at all.
Polynesia?
No, smaller. Anyway, there's a country. It probably doesn't start with a P, to be honest. And they're doing that because whatever evidence they've got, where they are, they happen to have a whole lot of. It's not manta rays, but it's something that people come over to dive in that area specifically because they're coming to see a really large population of a certain type of animal. Might even be jellyfish, actually. There's something, and they think that chemical sunscreens or the chemicals in them, it may not be the actual SPF, it's something in chemical sunscreens is negatively affecting the wildlife. Not necessarily the reef with the specific whatever they've got. Would be helpful if I had done more research on this. Oh well, we're here now.
We sure are, and it's
so
way
it seems
too
to
late.
be a thought that's a bit more pervasive than just in the woo-woo side of life.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that's the only area that I had anticipated you would get. It would be the kind of no fluoride in the water people who would be all over this.
Whereas this is
Pete Evans as well.
I don't know what you're talking about. But this is a country that get most of their revenue from tourism, and it's going to be blocking some tourism. So they've obviously done some time and some research, I assume.
Good on them.
Although it is a government that's made the decision, so who knows if they've done any research at all. I'm not bitter and twisted about governments.
The foreign minister's second cousin owns a natural sunscreen company.
Yeah, right.
That's just
he owns some land where there's like zinc oxide or something, deposits. I don't know.
Not that we're cynical. As another episode
draws
creeps
to
its
an
way
end,
to a close.
as I've gone slowly mad over the course of the last hour and a half. Yep.
Next time around, Dom,
Yes.
I
Sorry,
believe you're going to be seeing what nutritional yeast can do for you.
Sure.
And what am I
like
going to be up
Vegemite.
to?
Sounds good to me. It's not the same thing, right? It sounds like the same thing because it's yeast.
Yeah.
And it's nutritional.
Of course.
It's got B6 or something.
Yeah. That's
I remember some
practically
ad.
it. Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I can sing the song. I can't remember exactly what vitamin it was, but I can sing you the song.
I think what advertisers are going for is much more the kind of getting the earworm into your brain and
Well,
not
they've
so much the
succeeded.
information.
Michelle, they've succeeded. I do not live my life without Vegemite. In
All
fact,
right,
I put
so
it in soups. There
you're
you
going
go.
to be
Nutritional yeasting it up.
Nutritional yeasting it up a storm.
Because as a lady, what I always aim for is the yeastiness. Yep, just going to leave that one there. So what I'm challenging you to, Misha, is curcumin. People love curcumin. People rave about curcumin. Apparently it's healed everyone's cancer by now.
Absolutely. I'm going to come
I'm
back
on
with
curcumin
no
because
inflammation whatsoever.
my integrative GP is like, curcumin is the shiz, so you're now on curcumin. So I'm now passing the curcumin buck. And I do expect a nice Instagrammable photo
I know.
of a turmeric latte, please.
It shall be done. Do you have any recaps, revisitings, updates?
You really should ask me this before we
Anything
start
else?
recording,
I've
because
got
I
one.
don't. Oh, you do? Okay, well, go then. Go.
I joined your EcoWorks cult.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
My mum's trying to steal my EcoWorks, having listened to the podcast. She's like, I didn't know it was that good. I'm like, I've been raving about it for weeks.
Yeah.
And now she's like, just give me some. And I'm like, no, my EcoWorks, holding it close to my chest.
I have to say I'm pretty impressed.
What initial pack did you go with?
So I went with the one that's the mop that's got a squirter on it.
Yes, that's what I've got. It's a good mop, right?
Yeah, it's really good.
That didn't seem as enthusiastic as I am about it, but that's okay. I suppose
I'm not.
You don't need
I have
to,
to
be
say
a man of
I'm not.
taste.
But you're
Evangelical.
practically.
I know.
If it was a pyramid scheme, you'd be
Look, I'm selling
at the
it.
top of the
I'm
pyramid.
selling.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm selling.
Yeah, look, but
Bernie Madoff had a thing, and I'm going with it.
ease of use, amazing. Quality
Yes.
of the cloths, quality of the mop. I was actually really, really surprised. Yeah,
I'm pointing at my nose
your nose.
enthusiastically.
There is indeed no smell,
Which just
which is incredible.
baffles me still.
Yeah. One thing where I've been absolutely most impressed is on our splashback behind the stove.
Yep.
Any other massively kind of greasy areas with like practically 3-year-old cat and a dog, and the cat and the dog have white
So the
fur.
cat's 3. How old was the child? Sorry.
Very good, Dom. Very good. What I just
amazing.
meant was
I want a sugar high, I
you get to
apologise.
admire the cleanliness of the floors for all of about 35 seconds
Yep.
at our house
Yep.
before they're a complete fucking disaster zone again. So there's a limit to how totally impressed you can get with that. I haven't yet gone to town on bathrooms with it, but I've heard great things about what
Shower
it does
screen
to
doors and
glass,
whatnot. Yep.
and all the rest. So yeah, looking forward to that. I don't yet have a sense of how long it's exactly gonna last.
Yep.
We're like 3-bedroom with quite a bit of
Living area.
with like polished floorboards.
Yeah.
So I get the sense that I'm kind of be going through a fair
How
bit
often
of
would
it.
you be mopping anyway? I'm a mostly vacuum and it's clean kind of girl, to be honest. I
We're
don't have a
kind
child,
of,
obviously.
Yeah, at the moment we're sort of like spot cleans basically is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way that it works. Like in the small epicenter of horror, it's like, okay, we have to deal with that right now. The rest can go to hell. One thing I will say, as far as, and I think you mentioned this in terms of oven cleaning, like the reduction in effort that's involved on your part to achieve the cleanliness is really quite impressive. Like it took what felt like no time flat to mop the entire floors.
Yeah.
Which was really, really good.
You shouldn't be using too much on the floors, theoretically.
No,
and
I gather
because of the
that,
way
yeah.
that the spray thing on the mop
Quite
works.
diffuse.
Yeah, so you don't end up going through it super quick. In the mopping, I don't probably mop as often as you, not having a child and being, well, I wouldn't say lazy. I am just edited in my cleaning.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth me constantly having a super clean house.
Yeah.
It's not worth the energy output.
I would say look out for, there's quite a bit of like YouTube ad stuff going
There
around for
is,
them.
yes.
So there are some promotional codes going around.
Yeah.
They also, by the time you hear this, the sale will probably be over, but there was like quite a substantial sale. It was almost like 30 or so percent
They
off.
seem to do them every couple of months. or every
Constantly?
kind of
Good on them.
3 to 6 months, they seem to do them.
Yeah.
Because I still get Facebook ads and stuff for them, and I'm like, I've already bought in, guys. Stop advertising to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like postage was super quick. It's really quite well packaged,
Yep.
maybe even to the point of being a little bit over packaged.
But most of what you can, yes. Do you find it annoying that you can't break the mop down?
I mean,
'Cause once
compared
it's-
to all the other, compared to having a child, no. But yeah, it's not going to sort of hang up next to a brush,
No.
really.
No.
It's going to take up a bit of its own space. But then again, like, theoretically, if you really go all in on this stuff, you're going to be throwing away quite a lot of your other cleaning products. So,
Yeah.
so swings and roundabouts on that one. But yeah, look, honestly, I am.
What's Fee's opinion? Does she like it?
Hasn't really got into it yet.
No.
Like an awful lot of things to do with this podcast, it's like there's a faint eye roll and a lot of suffering through it as just another eccentric thing that, oh God, here we go again.
But she's quite environmentally conscious.
She is.
And it's meant to be environmentally
I
conscious.
agree, but I think she'll get extremely suspicious once she starts looking into the levels of secrecy around what's actually in it.
Yeah, right? I think we need to somehow don some balaclavas and, I don't know, break into... Where are they? University of New South Wales? Or
Somewhere like that, yeah.
Let's go find it.
They seem like they're doing very well for themselves. They seem like they could hire quite a lot of people to warn you off.
And nobody can warn me off what I want to investigate, Misha.
What if it's like some bad kind of 80s movie where you like burst into the warehouse and there's just rows and rows of
TNT being poured into something?
Kind
out
of.
A big barrel with TNT written on it?
Yeah. And lots of sort of
Handles
shift
hanging from the
workers
ceiling?
with extra arms and things.
Well,
Just saying.
An extra arm could be handy.
There goes our sponsorship chances.
No, it is frustrating that you don't know what's in it, especially if you've got like allergies or something.
Yeah.
They advertise it as being great for people with allergies and sensitivities, but if you don't know what's in it, how can you know?
How do you tell?
I totally get that. And that's one of the reasons why I initially laughed about the fact I was joining a cult, because there is that unknown factor.
Yeah.
It makes ease of use, gets rid of that for me. I don't really care that much.
And again,
How do you know it's good for the environment if you don't know what's in it? Yes, I know.
But you're also like, here's the other thing, like you are using astonishingly little of it, considering
Yes.
like the amount of suds you have to work up to get rid of the kind of grease that I'm ordinarily getting rid of off the stovetop, splashback, and our range hood.
Yep.
Like compared to a couple of quick sprays and a wipe down.
I don't
really
like the actual
remarkable.
spray bottle that much, do you?
It's odd, isn't it? The fact that it keeps on squirting.
Sometimes
for like
it
quite
squirts
a
for a while and sometimes it's like...
Yeah.
And maybe it's I'm not, but it also feels a little bit, the mop feels good quality.
Yeah.
The atomizer thing
Not
doesn't
so
feel
much.
as good quality.
But then again, like atomizer bottle from the supermarket.
Can you put it in a normal atomizer bottle
But
or a
why
normal
wouldn't
spray
you be
bottle?
able to? Like I
I
don't
don't
think
know,
there's
because
anything
the
about
liquid
the plastic.
seems to be magic from what I can see.
But it looks like it comes in a really ordinary looking plastic bottle. The liquid itself, it's a really ordinary looking plastic bottle that clips
Did you
onto
get the
the
5
mop.
litre one?
Yeah.
Yeah, comes in a wine cask. Mine came in like
Kind
a wine
of,
cask.
yeah, ish. Oh, really? No, mine came in a plastic bottle. No, mine came in a plastic bottle. I would
Oh.
definitely know about it if it had come in anything that even vaguely resembled a
A wine cask, yeah, that's why I thought I'd
That
bring
was
that
the
up.
first thing I would have noticed.
Sudden spike of joy, but then, followed by shut up to yourself.
That's right, exactly.
Well, maybe they've updated their...
They may well have. I don't know why they.
Well, they're coming in a plastic bottle and being environmentally friendly. Boom!
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. How seriously are you going to be taking if your product arrives like, goon?
Well, I take it very seriously.
It's tricky.
But then there's nothing to say that I wouldn't have taken goon seriously in my drinking days. I did grow up in
I
country.
took it exceptionally seriously.
Yes, that is the problem.
Indeed.
I grew up in country New South Wales. Goon is important. There used to be, I think, at one stage, a really cheap brand of wine called Goon for a little while.
Yeah. Hence the name.
Yeah. Which to people down in Victoria, when I'd said, "Oh, it's cask wine. That's not Goon," and they're like, "No, it's Goon." I'm like, "No, it's not branded Goon though," and they're like, "That's not a thing," and I'm like, "Yes, it is."
It's like Hoover for a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
It's
Or
when a brand
Band-Aid
has
for
taken
a
over. Yeah,
medical
that's right.
plaster, which is very snappy as a name.
100%.
Anyway, so I'm glad you joined the cult.
Yeah. Are there any updates
You did ask me that a second
further?
ago.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
good. I think I'm good.
You don't have any? Oh, fair enough. All right.
Do I have any?
That's us done.
What have I done that I need to update?
Are you still using the Shakti mat?
Yes, every night,
Yeah.
pretty much. I have rolled it over when like my hips are really bad or something, over my yoga, because my yoga mat's quite thick, so when it's rolled up, it's kind of like foam roller size. So, and it's foamy, so I figured that is a foam roller. So I've rolled it over that, and it's you can get some good targeted bits going
I would
on.
bet.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can
nice
buy
one.
on the Shakti website and on other websites a foam roller with the Shakti stuff on the beads of pain on the outside.
Yeah.
You can also get them from a lot of, as it turns out, weighted blanket websites as well.
Well. Oh, yeah, we're going to be coming back to weighted blankets at some point in the future.
Yep. I will do a shout out to Yoga Nidra, which I've rediscovered over the last week because it's helped get me through the nights with some restless leg nights. And Yoga Nidra was just a way of keeping me sane for 5 minutes when my legs are doing a dance of their own. Yeah. Because Yoga
Well done,
Nidra
Yoga
was never
Nidra.
challenging enough when I was, earlier. And now I'm like, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't want challenging. I just want to Yep.
Yeah.
Went down the
Just wanted
yoga
to stop.
nidra wormhole. Yep. It's good.
Excellent. Well, it's been charming spending time in all of your ears.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
We will indeed. Toodaloo.
Woo.
Thank you, dear listener, for listening. A few words in these litigious times before I tell you how you can get in touch. Anything short of a coffee enema is not intended to be and should not be used as a substitute for advice from medical and psychological professionals. If you want to get in touch with us, and we would love to hear from you, you can email us at anythingshortpod@gmail.com. We gratefully accept suggestions for future challenges and books and other products to review. Or you can heap upon us criticism and abuse. If you wish to heap abuse but find yourself short on time, we recommend Twitter and Instagram, where we go by @shortofapod. If you like what you've heard, on the other hand, leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. Tweet about us, or, like the common cold or herpes simplex, spread us by using your mouth.